Welcome to the LEGB rule and understanding Python scope. My name's Joseph, and I'll be the disembodied voice guiding you through this video course. This one's all about scopes. One of the most important concepts in programming is scope. Scopes are in charge of how variables and names are looked up in your code and which parts of your code have access to what. This may seem fundamental, but actually, the rules of scopes are one of those things that are easy to learn and hard to master. So in this course, you'll learn all about the LEGB rule in Python, named after the 4 kinds of scopes you'll be exploring: local, enclosing, global, and built-in. You'll take advantage of Python's unique introspective tools to dive deep into how each of these scopes work. In this course, you'll learn how to use scopes and namespaces in Python, why understanding scope is key to writing high-quality code, what the LEGB rule is and how it's used in name resolution, when you can bend the rules of Python scope using the global and non-local statements, and finally, what closures are and how they take advantage of scopes. With these skills, you'll level up your ability to write Python programs that are more maintainable, reliable, and even have fewer bugs. First, it'll help if you have some familiarity with intermediate Python concepts, like functions, variables, inner functions, also called nested functions, built-in functions, as well as Python's built-in data structures. If you're a little foggy on some of these, that's okay too. We'll be providing supplemental links to other real Python courses and articles to help catch you up. Speaking of which, for a refresher on the actual rules of names as well as variable assignment, this course, Variables in Python, would complement our ensuing discussion nicely. Now join me in the next lesson where we'll break down scope, what it really is, and why it's important. Naming things is hard. What's even harder is remembering the names you've used and trying not to reuse them. And if you've ever Googled your own name, you probably know that names aren't necessarily unique. So how does this apply to programming in Python? Well, when you initialize a variable or define a function, you need a name to access that variable or function with later on. If names had to be unique across an entire program, it might be manageable at a small scale, but it would become unwieldy as the program expands. This is where scope comes in. Scope is like context. Each line of code runs in a particular context, be it the top level of a module, or inside a function, or inside a class, etc. Scopes define areas in your code where you can access variables and names. And what happens if you use the same name multiple times? That's called a name collision, and it can lead to buggy or outright broken code. Using scopes, you can mitigate name collisions across your programs. Another important element of software design is isolation. A function or class should only have access to the data it needs. With scopes, you can set boundaries to control the data that certain areas of code can access. In short, scopes are a core concept important for effectively structuring your programs. And where do these names come from? How do they enter your program? For names that you, the programmer, define, there are a few different ways they can be created in Python. Through assignment, such as creating a variable like x equals value. Through import operations, such as import module or from module import name. In function definitions, using the def keyword, for example, my_func, followed by some function code. Or in function argument definitions, which creates variables local to that function. More on this later. For example, def my_func and including argument names like arg1, arg2, up to argn. And of course, through class definitions using the class keyword. Once you have a name defined, how does Python retrieve its associated object? This is where the LEGB rule comes in. At any point in the execution of your program, there can be up to 4 active scopes: local, enclosing, global, and built-in. And this order is also the rule for name lookups. When you reference a name, Python searches these scopes in order for an object corresponding to that name. If the name isn't found in any scope, a name error is raised. Whoops. So first we have the local or function scope. This contains the names defined inside functions. Next up is the enclosing, also called non-local scope. This exists for nested or inner functions and covers the names contained in their enclosing functions. This is probably the trickiest scope, but mastering it enables some really powerful design patterns. Then we have the global or module scope, which includes names defined at the top level of a Python script or module. This scope is always available, meaning these names can be used anywhere. And the built-in scope. The built-in scope is a special scope loaded at runtime, providing access to Python built-ins. The stuff in the Python standard library that's so useful, you shouldn't even need to import it. And just like the global scope, this scope is available anywhere in your code. And due to this nesting relationship, variables included in the higher scopes can be read from lower scopes, but usually can't be modified. There are ways around this, as you'll see in later lessons. And another quality of these layers of scopes is that the same name can also be reused across different scopes and refer to different objects. In theory, you can have a local variable named banana, as well as a global variable also named banana. Because this can lead to confusion, this is generally considered a bad practice, no matter how much you like bananas. And what about namespaces? Scopes and namespaces are very closely related. The simplest way to think about it is that scope describes the names available in any given location in your program. Alternatively, a namespace is some object in code that you can access those names from. And you'll see how to access the namespaces of scopes throughout this course. In short, scopes determine where in your program a name is accessible and are areas where names are created or accessed. Namespaces, on the other hand, determine how names in a program are stored, and they are the Python dictionaries mapping names to objects. One way to look at them directly would be to access them from the special dunder dict attribute of modules, functions, or classes. Pop open the REPL and we'll look at a quick example of how to view a namespace using the dunder dict attribute of a module. Here we are in a fresh REPL session. There are already a few names in the global scope, and you can view them by calling the dir function with no arguments. This returns a list with the names of some special objects Python uses internally, as indicated by their leading and trailing double underscores, often shortened to dunder. Since you want to view a namespace, you'll need a module to inspect. Go ahead and import the sys module. Import sys. And if you call dir again, you'll see at the end of the list is the name sys, since you just brought it into the global scope with an import statement. The namespace of the sys module is contained in its dunder dict attribute. Confirm its type by passing it into the type function. Type sys.dunderdict. You'll see this is nothing more than a Python dictionary. Because its contents are actually fairly large, take a look at the dictionary's keys. sys.dunderdict.keys. Yep, that's a lot. The output is a list of strings corresponding to all the names defined at the top level of the sys module. If you wanted to access the object associated with one of those names, you have a couple options. The first, well, it's a dictionary, so you can use accessors directly on the dictionary. Go ahead and grab ps1. sys.dunderdict and the string ps1 in brackets. The result? The REPL's prompt string. Here, 3 greater than symbols and a space. Of course, the usual technique is simple, dot notation. sys.ps1. The same result and a lot less typing. But now you understand that the value is actually retrieved from the namespace, and that namespace represents the module's global scope. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more to learn. Next up, you'll take a look at each of these scopes in detail, starting with the local scope. Most of us first encounter the concept of scopes with the local scope. At least I did. If you've ever written or even used a function, you've created a local scope. So it makes sense that it's also called the function scope, because it exists at the function level. This scope keeps names and variables isolated to their functions. They can't be used or modified from the outside, and this keeps your functions consistent, self-contained units. The local scope contains all variables created while the function runs, whether as parameters or defined within the function body. And every time a function is called, a new local scope is created. When the function execution ends, that local scope is discarded. So how can you inspect the contents of a local scope? To view variables in a local scope, you can call the built-in function locals from inside that function. It'll return a dictionary that is a copy of the function's namespace at that point during its execution. Another option is from the outside, you can access the dunder code attribute of a function. This holds a special code class used internally by Python that holds data about the code of the function. From there, the attribute co_var names holds a tuple of names local to that function. For example, my_func.dundercode.co_barnames. Let's explore these concepts further in the REPL. Back in the REPL now. First, you'll define a function so you have something to work with. It'll be called square, and it takes in one argument, base, raises base to the power of 2, and prints a string describing the result. Def square with the parameter base, result equals base ***2. The double star operator applies exponentiation. Print an f string. The square of the variable base is the variable result. Run square, passing in the integer value 10. Perfect. The square of 10 is 100. Now, can you access the local variables? Result. You get a name error. Base. And another name error. As you would expect, both variables can't be accessed. Here in the top level, the names aren't found in any of the available scopes, so Python raises a name error on both counts. And remember, each local scope is self-contained. You can validate this by creating a new function, cube, that has the same behavior as the square function, only it cubes its base instead of squaring it. Def cube with the parameter base. Result equals base **3. Print an f string. The cube of the variable base is the variable result. Now try running cube with the argument 30. The cube of 30 is 27,000. I'm just going to trust Python that number is accurate. So what you've demonstrated here is that despite both functions using the same names internally, base and result, there haven't been any name collisions. Each function is completely isolated from each other. While we're here, why don't we also look at that dundercode attribute? cube.dundercode.co_barnames. And the result is a tuple of base and result. You can compare against square.dundercode.co_barnames. And yep, the same names, base and result. And to work with the locals function, you'll need to create a function that calls locals within the function body. Def func with the parameter arg, var equals the integer 100, print a call to locals, another equals the integer 200. Your function has 3 local variables, arg, var, and another. Call func, passing in 300. The result, the locals dictionary is printed. Because locals is called before the variable another is defined, all you see displayed here are the names and values for var and arg, 100 and 300 respectively. You might now be wondering if you can change the local scope directly by modifying the dictionary returned by the locals function. Why not give it a try? Again, you need a function to work with. Def func with no parameters this time. Create the variable var and set it to 100. Call locals and use bracket accessors to grab var from the dictionary it returns, then set that to 200. Lastly, print var. Call func and see what happens. Var is printed, and var contains the value of 100, which is its original value, meaning that despite modifying var's value in the dictionary returned by locals, the variable itself stayed the same. This is because, as mentioned before, the dictionary returned by locals is only a copy of the namespace, and that's the reason it can't be used to modify variables. And that was the local scope. Next up, I hope you aren't claustrophobic, because we're about to be squeezing into the tight quarters of the enclosing scope. See you in the next lesson.